what's the name of the movie with the guys that took over the ship?
Amistad.
Amistad. So, what is it called? Not insurrection. What's it called when they take over the ship? Mutiny. So the mutinies that happened with the slaves that took over ships, it wasn't the big ships, was it? It was the small cargo ships, right?
According to my document I had, some of them were being given position by the slave masters. Yes, because some of them were very strong and staunch. So they would just help them to control their colleagues in there. So they had some privileges.
Okay.
So they will help them to control those slaves who try to prove aggressive.
Oh, okay.
And they are also being led with commodities and the rest. So they just had some privileges. So from time they would also get to hold some positions, just helping to control slaves and the ships and the rest.
Okay. Okay.
Were there any uprisings here of the slaves? Like, did they try to fight back, or were they just too?
I don't have document of exact, but per historical document, they tried to fight. That's why they created a cell for them, so that from time to time when they fight them, they will just have to kill them. Yes. So no records of any exact instance. Yes, because they wouldn't even document those instances. Yes.
But I guess bringing out the dead bodies would deter them from fighting.
Yeah.
So they'd be like, what's gonna
Yes.
So in chains and shackles, that's why we saw most of them were chains sometimes. In chains and shackles, even in chains, they try to fight. Yes, so they try to prove very aggressive. So there were instances, but as to whoever they were trying to fight, we don't have the exact documental of whether names which were involved in those uprisings, but they were uprising. Yes. And when they reached the New World, some of them also got the chances to run away. So we call them the maroon slaves.
Oh.
So a lot of them got the opportunity to run from the slave master's house. They established a settlement in the hinterland. They lived in there. Yes. So most of them got the opportunity to run upon reaching the New World. So if no question, we go down.
Okay. Mama getting tired and hot. Sleepy and hot.
There's another fort up here. You can see from there, some can see from the moon.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes.
That's Fort Victoria. Yes.
Oh, okay.
You come closer to your
I was
left.
going to know what I'm looking at. Oh, yes,
Yes.
yes. Oh, maybe that's the one that is.
That's
Is
Victoria.
that the one that we drove past then?
You came from Accra?
Yes.
All the way, yeah. Accra is Amsterdam.
Ah, okay.
But
Yeah,
Amsterdam down
okay.
is a different
It's just
one.
on a hill, yeah.
So this is the communication. When you look through, it links directly to the communication. Just to receive the signal. So you can confirm the British. Yes. And when the British and the Dutch they fought, the British took the land from them. So when they took it from them, they named it after one of their monarchs, New York. Yes. So New Amsterdam was originally for the Dutch. And the British took it. And they named it New York.
Oh, okay.
They got the land from them. They also took over the fort. You see the church?
Okay. Ooh. How much more time?
15 minutes. We'll be going.
So this was the church. In the third chamber, I didn't mention the church sits on top of the third chamber in the middle ceiling.
Yes.
So this was the church society for the propagation of the gospel. At a point in time, they changed it to be a school for the mulattoes or the mixed race children. And currently, this is a children's library. Children around the area, when they close from school, they come around to it. And there's a spy hole that was to connect the church to the chamber for them to hear what was going on.
Oh, that's that. Okay.
Yes, this is the door you saw this. So while they went in and out of the church, here to analyze to what all went on. So this is a spy hole. It's a church right on top of the same dungeon. You don't know the kind of church that was being worshipped. With no question.
No.
You continue down. You can have a look to the right if you want to.
Hot, really. More so. I am burning up. I don't need it. It ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna do nothing. Oof. I still got mine in the car, so. Ah, it's so hot. Look at this Italy fig tree. Or is it something else? This is another kind of tree. No? I don't know. It looks like a Italy fig tree, but it has some kind of fruit on it. A flower or something.
When we went into the shrine to command them to move faster, another one out there to make a head count of the number of seats. So a portion of the underground tunnel to this side. To this side is about 13 feet deep. Please, any question? There's no question. You see the other side.
Is that a leaf? Don't drop your phone. Oh, this is long too.
So when we account the rest of the shrine, we completed from here. So initially there was a space. And so when they journey through, they exit from here. Females will join them in here. They go through to the door of no return. The door of no return, initially it was here. Very short and narrow. They designed it for one person at a time. And so the slaves in chains and shackles, they bend down, they are forced through this door. But at a point in time, the seawater was coming into the castle to distract activities. That's why they blocked this point, channel the door of no return to the other direction. So initial exit and the initial door of no return. So initially they walk through to where we just saw, exit from here, females will join them through to the door of no return. So the door blocked because the sea was coming into the castle. Here is how this is clear. You see the female punishment.
So it was just straight in the sea.
Yeah, the smaller boats are there to transfer them. And to the back here, the sea lies just at the back of the castle. But currently, there is a sea defense to keep the sea from coming into the town and hitting the castle. Yeah. So there is a sea defense. This was a punishment cell. They purposely designed it for the females who resisted rape from the European officials. So a lot of them don't bring their wives in here. They go into the dungeons to select some of the females to be raped. The females who resisted rape, they are brought in here to serve punishment of about 7 days. Held in here, they fed them once in a day. The food just to sustain them, not even to satisfy them. The metal gate in here will be shut. There is a small hole in here, that's where they eat themselves. And this was their only source of light and ventilation. Sometimes they pass food from this point for the females. And so females only after serving their punishment before they move them back into the female slave dungeon. But a lot of them got pregnant through rape. All those who got pregnant through rape, they take them out of the castle. The Europeans had burnt race houses in town. Nurses and doctors are in there to examine them, take care of them until they give birth. And when they give birth after a period of breastfeeding, about 6 months to 2 years range, they take the kids from the females, and the females are brought back into the castle to serve their intended purpose. And so females after pregnancy, those who are still strong, are held back into the dungeons to serve their intended purpose. Commercial slaves, they will be shipped away. But the weaker ones will be in the castle to serve as domestic slaves. They will help to do the chores in the castle. And the kids were schooling up in the church. And so I made mention the church at a point in time was converted into a school for the mulattoes and the mixed race children. They were schooling up there. And so most of them grew up taking up to whatever their fathers were doing in here. And so some became slave masters, administrators, clerks, and interpreters in this very castle. But for their mothers, they lost total contact because a lot of them, their mothers were shipped away. And even those that were in here, looking at the number of children in here, they wouldn't be able to identify their children because they take their kids from at a very younger age. So they lost contact with their mothers totally. The punishments are purposely designed for the females who resisted rape from the European officials. Please, any question?
The children were taken out of they were saying
they had other bent bricks houses in town and stuffs in town. Yeah, so aside the castle, they had other houses in town.
Oh, yeah, I saw a picture, yeah.
Yes. So probably the kids will be around that area and they will be coming to school.
so they do name them.
Yeah, that's why we have a lot of the names, European names dotted to the shores or coast of Ghana. So you can talk of the Graf Johnson, we have Addison, we have Anderson.
So with DNA tests, if the DNA test of the Africans here, do they have white blood in them like we do over in America?
Some do traces the roots from the European nations because of those who came in. So when we saw the grave of Captain George McLean, I made mention the supposed he was cheating on African mistress by name Ellen Bannerman. So after the wife died, Letitia died, he together with Bannerman, they continued the relationship and they gave birth. The family is still in existence. You have traces in.
And one more thing, what kind of food was given? Was it like grits, like maize? What was given to
them? They ate more of carbohydrate food. Maize, cassava, and the rest. So we are currently in the female slave gallery. There are two chambers here. The other one is the opposite. Each of the chambers held about 150 to 200 female slaves. In all two chambers, about 300 to 400 held in the chambers at the time. And here too, they did everything here. Urinate, go to toilet, sleep in here. Sometimes they were fed in here. And even after menstruation, there was no bath for the captives in here. They are held in their mess till the ships come for them away. The only time they get an opportunity to take their bath is when they are being selected to be raped by some of the officials in here. Aside that, no bath for the captives in here. And so everything we are working on also contains the excrement of the ancestors that are solidified all over the chambers. They are only source of light and ventilation. The three holes here, together with this one, but this one had metal bars or partitions within. This will also serve as a spy hole for the Europeans in case they want to keep an eye on them or select some of them to be raped through this spy hole. They will keep an eye on them. And the flowers are brought all over to pay homage to the souls of the female ancestors. We believe their souls or their spirit continues to stay. And the main motive for they wanting females was for reproduction, so that when they get to the new order in the plantations, they force most of them to mate with the men. They give birth and they will get children of a kind. We wanted people who are very staunch and strong. And so when they see one slave who is very staunch and strong, they force that person to mate with some of the females to give birth. So that when they give birth, they will get children of that kind. So their main motive for they wanting females was for reproduction, and more of the men for the active work on the plantations. And so though the females would work, their work wouldn't be intensive as to what the men would be doing. The men were mainly needed for the active work on the plantations. And so this is the female slave dungeon. The other chamber two are opposite. Please, any question?
This is it.
We coming up on it, baby. We on the cusp. They falling down, baby. We going up. Tell me you ready, baby. I wanna hear. Tell me you ready. Off out the moving, baby. It's a redemption. Most High Christ and said I really can't take nothing from it. World can't do nothing for me, can't take nothing out of it, none of it. So I just been doing all the things I needed to do to live in the sky.
So door of no return. So this is a famous door of no return. The door was not large like this. The door was very short and narrow. And they designed it for one person at a time. And so when you visit Elmina Castle, they still have their door of no return in there, very short and narrow. But here during the colonial period, Gold Coast was a capital and in here was an administrative seat. And so because of the administrative and trading purpose of the Europeans, they changed the smaller door into the large door for their own intended purpose. But originally it was very short and narrow. And Africans who journeyed through this door, they lost everything with respect to their lives. They lost their roots, they lost their identity, they lost their culture, their fundamental human rights, their religion. They had no opportunity to even say goodbye to their family members. When they moved them through this door, normally they placed them on smaller boats to transfer them into the large ships. And through that process, a lot of them drowned themselves in the ocean to die. This was because most of them were taken or captured from the hinterland. They had not seen the ocean before. So upon being placed on smaller boats out of fear, they drowned themselves in the ocean to die. And others believed in reincarnation or the life after death. Because of their belief, they wanted to die so that they will be reincarnated back to their lands. So upon being placed on smaller boats to be transferred, a lot of them drowned themselves in the ocean to die. It's a portion of the underground tunnel to this side. To this side is about 13 feet deep. Please, any question? If no question, you see the other side of the tunnel.
And you screen it.
The door was not large like this. The door was very short and narrow. The inner castle, they still have their door of no return in there, very short and narrow. But here during the colonial period, Gold Coast was a capital and in here was an administrative seat. And so because of the administrative and trading purpose of the Europeans, they changed the smaller door into the large door for their own intended purpose. But originally it was very short and narrow. And Africans who journeyed through this door, they lost everything with respect to their lives. They lost their roots, they lost their identity, they lost their culture, their fundamental human rights, their religion. They had no opportunity to even say goodbye to their family members. When they moved them through this door, normally they placed them on smaller boats to transfer them into the large ships. And through that process, a lot of them drowned themselves in the ocean to die. This was because most of them were taken or captured from the hinterland. They had not seen the ocean before. And so upon being placed on smaller boats out of fear, they drowned themselves in the ocean to die. And others believed in reincarnation or the life after death. Because of their belief, they wanted to die so that they will be reincarnated back to their lands. And so upon being placed on smaller boats to be transferred, a lot of them drowned themselves in the ocean to die. And so that's why I made mention the Atlantic Ocean that lies in here is termed to be the mass cemetery or grave for the ancestors in here. Because we can't even determine the number of Africans that were buried in here by the Europeans and the number of Africans that buried themselves in here. So that's why we call it the mass cemetery or grave for the ancestors in here. And when they reach the New World, those who survived the journey, they will baptize and they will Christianize them. They give them Christian names and they bear the surnames of the slave masters for easy identification. And with respect to language, they are forced to learn the language of the slave masters to bridge the communication gap between the captives and the slave masters. And so Africans who journeyed through this door lost everything with respect to their lives and they never returned home. So that's why we call it the door of no return. Africans went and they never returned. Today we are not slaves, we shall see what lies behind the door. We are assured to return through the door of return. The original castle, they still have their door of no return in there, very short and narrow. But here during the colonial period, Gold Coast was a capital and in here was an administrative seat. And so because of the administrative and trading purpose of the Europeans, they changed the smaller door into the large door for their own intended purpose. But originally it was very short and narrow. And Africans who journeyed through this door, they lost everything with respect to their lives. They lost their roots, they lost their identity, they lost their culture, their fundamental human rights, their religion. they had no opportunity to even say goodbye to their family members. When they moved them through this door, normally they placed them on smaller boats to transfer them into the large ships. And through that process, a lot of them drowned themselves in the ocean to die. This was because most of them were taken or captured from the hinterland. They had not seen the ocean before. And so upon being placed on smaller boats out of fear, they drowned themselves in the ocean to die. And others believed in reincarnation or the life after death. Because of their belief, they wanted to die so that they will be reincarnated back to their lands. And so upon being placed on smaller boats to be transferred, a lot of them drowned themselves in the ocean to die. And so that's why I made mention the Atlantic Ocean that lies through there is termed to be the mass cemetery or grave for the ancestors. Because we can't even determine the number of Africans that were buried in here by the Europeans and the number of Africans that buried themselves in here. So that's why we call it the mass cemetery or grave for the ancestors in here. And when they reach the New World, those who survived the journey, they will baptize and they will Christianize them. They give them Christian names and they bear the surnames of the slave masters for easy identification. And with respect to language, they are forced to learn the language of the slave masters to bridge the communication gap between the captives and the slave masters. And so Africans who journeyed through this door lost everything with respect to their lives and they never returned home. So that's why we call it the door of no return. Africans went and they never returned. Today we are not slaves, we shall see what lies behind the door. We are sure to return through the door of return.
These are the doors that led to the slave ships that scattered our ancestors across the world and about all nations. Unlike our ancestors, we were able to go back through the door of return.
It was coming up to this point, the stairs were not here. When the slaves reach in here, smaller boats are here. We transfer them into the large ships. We pack them head in, head out, very compact. The ship takes about 400 to 500 captives. And from here they move to their various destinations. So some of the slaves taken to the Americas, some taken to Europe basically for construction work, and the ships will move back to Africa again for the slaves. The movement on the map just like a triangle. That's why they call it the triangular trade through the Atlantic Ocean as the middle passage. And so from here the Africans lost their roots and they never returned home. So today we have door of return. The door of return narrative change in the year 1998. First ever Emancipation Day was celebrated in here. Those who came from the African American diaspora brought two skeletons of the descendants of the slaves, Samuel Carson from New York and Miss Crystal from Jamaica. Upon coming reaching somewhere, they placed them on smaller boats. They paddled them to this place. They believed in that when the ancestors were being carried away, the sea was a passage to the New World. And so if they are returning home, they should use the sea as a passage back home. That's why they placed them on smaller boats. They paddled them to this place. Upon reaching here, moving them through the door of no return, we believe the chains of the door of no return got broken. So the narrative had to change the door of return to welcome the ancestors back home.
Keep that bug out back by the door. Into the pilgrimage we go. Into the wilderness we go. Yeah, Exodus for sure. Yeah, sacred armor, let's roll. We've been waiting, we've been anticipating. We've been waiting, prophesying unto the wind on the daily. Teaching daily. Nobody believe. We've been out here looking crazy. Now the tables turn. Now the tables turn. Let's get it together, baby. Yeah, we going up. We going up. We going up. Going up.
Not just a talk, but a spiritual journey with the ancestors. So when you go through the door of no return, coming through it, the door of returning, today because their Father is here to welcome us, just like a pilgrimage or a spiritual walk with the ancestors in here. So that's why their Father is here to welcome us on the door of return. They'll come to here and experience whatever happened in here. So we say history in here is not to cause any psychological trauma in the minds of people, not to cause chaos amongst races. We believe you are learning from the past to correct the present and the future. And so throughout the tour, we got to realize most of the Africans were involved and most of the Europeans were also involved. And So here I made mention up there in the governor's residence that judgment is not pertinent. If we are to judge, we have no one to give the blame to, because both parties were involved in the trade. And so here we are saying we should try to fight against all sorts of injustice so that we can make the world a better place for us all. We know that injustice is reigning in a modernized form in our countries and our societies. But today, whatever form of injustice we see around, we try to come together to stand against all sorts of injustice to make the world a better place for us all. If we see any form of injustice and we don't fight against it, there is the near possibility of it coming in the long run to affect us in the near generation. That is why Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And we are caught in an inescapable network of neutrality, tied in a single garment of destiny. And whatever affects one directly, affects all indirectly. And so if today we see any form of injustice, we should try to stand against it so that we can make the world a better place for us all. And so I showed you a flag up there that was presented by the National House of Chiefs. So they presented it in here during the first ever Pan-African Historical Theatre Festival. One, to serve as an apology to the ancestors, because the chiefs, they believed that their predecessors were also involved in the trade. That's why they brought the message here to serve as an apology to the ancestors. And secondly, to pass on a message to humanity, that humanity should see to it that nothing of such ever repeats itself in the history of human lives. So I'll make reference to the message to conclude the talk from here. As it quotes in everlasting memory of the anguish of our ancestors, may those who die rest in peace. May those who return find their roots, and may humanity never again perpetrate such injustice against humanity. Read the living vow to uphold this National House of Chiefs 1992. And so if a living being, you never want to be enslaved, whatever form of injustice we see around, we try to come against all sorts of injustice to make the world a better place for us all. So for we are one people all together, but different colors. Lucky the way one said, is someone different colors. And so thank you very much once again. Good morning. My name is Kuku, and the tour has been.
Going up, we going up, going up, yeah, going up, yeah, been down on the bottom so long, going up, ain't never gonna come back down no more, going up, yeah, been down on the bottom so long, going up, ain't never gonna come back down no more, going up, we going up. I knew that they would come carry my flesh away. That's why I put all my faith in the spirit so they could take this body today. Can't do nothing but send me right back to my father with open arms. He wait already done brought my soul to peace. Give me what I need before I can pray. So important to me every day that I keep the crown above his face. Man, I done sacrificed so much trying to keep a smile upon his face. Can't let nothing get in the way between me and the ancient of days. They want me running around depressed, but nah, I feel great. Hold up, let's pray. Go up, hands raised. Get 'em up. You gon' see this world deteriorate. This all gon' crash and burn, but through it all, just know it's coming to pass for us to get our turn. So if you ain't been baptized, baby, jump off in that water. Get that wickedness up out your system. Repent to the Father, huh? Give it up your whole life, huh? Follow the path of Christ. Thought he was gon' leave us looking stupid. He bring in all we prophesy, and we've been waiting. We've been anticipating. We've been waiting, prophesying unto the wind on the daily. Teaching daily. Nobody believe. We've been out here looking crazy. Now the tables turn. And the tables turn. They get it together, baby. Yeah, we going up. We going up. We going up. Going up. We going up. Going up. Yeah. Going up. Yeah. Been down on the bottom so long. Going up. Going up. Ain't never gonna come back down no more. Going up. Going up. Going up. We going up. Going up. We going up. Going up. Yeah. Going up. Yeah. Been down on the bottom so long. Going up. Going up. Ain't never gonna come back down no more. Going up. Going up. We going up. Read the Bible. Deuteronomy 30 and 4 through 5. If any of thine be driven unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Most High thy power gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. 5. And the Most High thy power will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy father. Up to the Most High.